Hello everyone, welcome to MeanLifeStudies. In this video, you are going to learn how to handle null values. This is very important interview question that has been asking more frequently in any data related interviews. You can see here there is a question, how do you handle null values or missing values or inconsistent values in a table that stays in a database? So if you are working on any database, we have to use the database language, that is SQL, right? So now in SQL, we have different techniques to handle these null values. Those are, first one, ISNULL. Next one, COALESCE. Next one, case statements or conditional statements. So with the help of these three techniques that we are going to handle null values. So what is the need of handling these null values? Because if you cannot handle null values wisely, it will return, we'll be end up with wrong results, right? So we have to manage, or we have to handle those null values wisely. Then only we will be getting accurate results. Okay. So in real world projects, these handling of these null values will be depends on their projects. So clients are mentioning like you have to handle this null value. If this employee name is null, then you have to mention with a particular name. So if this department is null, then you have to mention with a particular name. So that is how they are going to mention. Okay. So for example, if here it is, I'm just considering a small table. In real world, it will be a larger table. We'll be having a millions of records and many hundreds of columns as well, right? So now we will see how we are going to handle null values with the help of these three techniques and what is the difference between these three. Okay. So for that, I'm just considering a sample data. You can able to see here, this is the data I'm just considering. So now first we'll start with ISNULL. So ISNULL will work as, if is there any null, then we are going to replace that with any default value. We'll see how it will work. So now if you observe, all employee IDs are not null value, right? Now if we count employee name, what it will return? Actually we have total of 11 employees are there. But if you try to count number of employees with the help of employee name, it will return only not null values only. It will count only not null values. Now you can see it will return, okay, what is this error? Incorrect name, employee. Okay, so we have to take it from table name, right? So we have to take it from the given table, that is EMPSS. So now if you observe, it's returning 7, but we have total of 11 employees are there, right? So that's why we have to handle these null values. Otherwise we'll be getting end up with wrong results, right? So now let's see how we can do that. Selecting employee name, employee ID is no null, right? So I'm just keeping as it is. After that, I'm going to use here ISNULL. That is the first technique we have. If employee name is null, now you can see I'm just returning those two columns with the help of this function, that is ISNULL. So if I execute this query, you can able to see what is the error. So you can see here, ISNULL function requires 2 arguments, but we just passed only 1 argument, right? So we have to pass 2 arguments. What is another one? So we are considering ISNULL of this particular column data, then we have to replace with any particular data, right? For example, if you observe, even you can select ISNULL of null. I'm just considering 9. Okay, we are not considering this is from any table. We are just taking the data directly. So now if you observe, it will return 9. You can see it's returning 9. So now if I remove 9, how it's returning? It will return error. You can see here, ISNULL function requires 2 arguments. Even though if you are passing direct values also, you have to pass 2 arguments. Okay, so let's see, I'm just passing 9. Otherwise, I'm going to pass one more value, 10 also. Okay, let's see what's the error. You can see here, ISNULL function requires only 2 arguments. It allows only 2 arguments only. Even if you pass 1 or more than 2, it's not going to take, right? So that's how ISNULL only accepts 2 arguments. One is null, any column will be having null data, and what is the value that you want to replace with. So these are the 2 arguments that's going to allowed by this ISNULL. Okay. So now here we are passing, here it's a data. Now we are passing to number of records present in a table, right? So we are considering ISNULL of this particular column. The values present in this column, if there is any null, then those values has to be replaced with any default value. Okay, let's see here. So if I pass any numeric value, so how it's going to return, you can able to observe. You can see here it's returning 100, right? So even though it is a string type of data, it's returning integer. It's going to consider that 100 as a string type of data. But when we apply for integer columns, replace with any string type of data, then you can see what is the error. Okay, it won't accept. Let's see that also. So here, this is a string type of data, so that's why I'm just replacing that with any string data, unknown. So even this is data only. This is unknown is a data. So null is a null value. Null means missing value. We don't know what is the exact value. But if you're mentioning replace with the default value as unknown, this is a string, right? Now if we use count of employee name, it will return 11. Okay. So let's see here. You can see here all null values replaced with unknown. Even if you count also, count of this particular, I'm going to remove this one. Now you can see it will return 11. It's returning 11, right? So we have to handle all null values. With the help of ISNULL, we are going to use, it's going to allow only two arguments. One is any column and default value. Okay. Now we'll see another data. We have another record also having a null values, right? Now in age. So if is there any age is null, in requirements document, clients are mentioning, okay, if this particular column data is null, then you have to replace with any particular value. Okay. So now you can see here, I'm going to replace is null of age is there any null data, then we are going to replace with 19. Okay. Similarly, is null of department, we are going to change with IT. Okay. So all this will be mentioned in the requirements documents. Okay. Clients are going to mention all of them. So next one is null of salary is null, then we are going to replace with default value, anything. Okay. Now if I execute this query, we are just trying to return the data, right? We are not storing back to original data, right? So this is how we are just looking at the data with help of retrieval command, that is select. Okay. Now even if you want to store back, you can use copy commands again. Okay. So now if you observe, all null values got replaced. Even if you want to replace from the original value also, you can use update commands individually, right? Okay. So now we'll see. If you observe, ISNULL will be accepting only two arguments. That is the drawback. So for example, if is there any relative columns, we have one or two columns. If any column value is null, then we have to replace that data with another column. It's not providing. Even that data also null, then that's going to navigate to another column, right? So that is how we have to, we have to assign the values present in another data from another columns. There is one more requirement, right? So, but with the help of this ISNULL, we cannot do that. And that's where we have one more function, that is COALESCE. In case of COALESCE, it will be returning first not null value that we passed, multiple arguments in a COALESCE. That means, let's see here, if you are passing any values, or if you want to replace null values present in this particular column, then you are going to take from another relative columns. If that is also null, then you are going to navigate to another column. If that is also null, then after you can mention any default value. So that's how COALESCE will allow us to pass multiple arguments. Even for, it's going to allow us to take multiple column data as well. Okay, let's see that also. I'm just returning employee ID, COALESCE of, let's see the data first. So this is the data, actual data we have. So now we are going to replace, if employee name is null, then we can replace with any particular name. Relative names, but we don't have any relative names. So that's why I'm just considering department. Okay. Department. If that is also null, then we are going to replace with default value. Okay. If age is null, then we are going to replace that with employee ID multiplied by 10. Okay. If that employee ID also null, then we are going to replace with default value. Okay. Similarly, you can mention any number of columns. Here we have only less number of columns. So that's why I'm just considering 2 columns. I'll show you that also by taking a direct data. COALESCE of, if department is null, then we are going to replace that with any other columns. Okay. Or else you can also mention direct name also. Coalesce of if salary is null, then we are going to replace with any employee ID multiplied by 1000. If that employee ID is also null, then we are going to consider age into 100. If that age also null, then we are going to replace with any default value. So this is how Coalesce will allow us to replace with any particular column data as well. If all those columns are column data is null, then it also provides us to default value to replace with any default value. Okay. So now if I execute this query, you can see what is this error? Column name employee ID, invalid column name employee ID. So let's see first what is the, okay, sorry guys, here we need to take it from table name, right? So we have to take it from employee access. Now we have to execute this query. Now you can able to observe all null values are replaced with any particular values are, values in the sense we replace with the help of other, you can see here. So if employee names are null, then we replace with department name, right? You can see marketing, and here is unknown. Okay, now here is unknown because this particular column data also null, and that's why we replace with ID, right? So that's why we are getting unknown. This is a default value, right? So this is how you can able to replace all null values with any other column data. If all those also null, then we can use, we can pass default value as well. Okay, let's see directly by taking a data. Select coalesce of, I'm just considering null, 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 okay, then 10, then 30. So now if you observe, coalesce will allow us to pass multiple arguments. All these are arguments. Okay, coalesce will return first not null value. What is the not null value? That is 10 only, right? So we can also call it as not null value. Now it is returning 10, right? So if in case this is also null, that's going to return 30. Okay, this is direct data, but we are considering column name under which column we will be having a multiple data. Okay, that is the principle of, that is the working principle of coalesce. Coalesce will be returning first not null value. Okay, now if you observe, we will be taking direct value. If any particular column data is null, we are going to replace with any other column data, but we are not considering multiple conditions, and we are not considering any multiple conditions in replacing of all null values, right? So that's where we have one more technique, that is conditional statements. With the help of conditional statements, we can replace and we can consider multiple conditions as well. Okay, now we'll see. First we'll see the data first. You can see this is the data. Now if you observe, we have both employee name and department name are null. So if those two are null, then we are going to replace with employee name with any other thing, department name is any other thing. But if is there only one null is there, like either employee name or department, either one of them is null, then we can replace with another name, right? So that's how we can use multiple conditions at a time with the help of these conditional statements, and we can handle all null values as well. Let's see that. I'm going to return employee ID, but now using conditional statement. How it will start? With the help of case and when statement, right? Case when employee name. So we cannot use equal, right? Because equal is a comparison operator, right? We cannot compare any null values with any not null value. Okay, so we have to use special operator, that is ISNULL. If this employee name is null or department is null, okay, then we are going to replace those employee names with department. Sorry, department is also null, right? So this is either of the condition. So either this name is null or this department is null, then we are going to replace that employee names with any other thing. We can use anything. Okay, now what we have to do after that, if the employee name is not null, we can consider as it is, else we are going to replace with, we are going to keep our employee name as it is. Okay, so after that we have to end this one. So now just to avoid your confusion, I'm just writing down. Now you can see case when, this is one statement. I have ended this one, right? You can also mention this as employee name. Similarly, another case statement, case when if age is null, then we are going to replace, here we are considering only single condition. We are not concerned about any other condition. We are just considering only this age is null. We can also use either single condition or multiple conditions or any number of conditions at a time with the help of these conditional statements. So now you can see I'm just replacing those values with default value, anything. You can mention anything. But else in the sense if age is not null, then we have to keep age as it is. We have to end this one as age column. Then next one, case when department is null, or else you can mention and department, sorry, another one, I'm just mentioning another column name, employee name is null, then we are going to replace that with any other thing. I'm just using IT. Okay, else you can mention any other thing. So here if you observe, both department name and employee name, like these two are null, then that's going to replace with IT. If only department other than this condition, this one is only null, right? If that is null, then we are going to replace with another one. Okay, so let's see that. Okay, let's see one more condition. When department is null, or okay, I'm just keeping only this condition only, then we are going to replace with other I'm just considering sales. Okay, next else I'm going to keep department as it is, as department. Okay, so I have to end this now. So I have to end this statement. Now we completed department. We are going to handling salary column. Salary is null. Then we are going to replace with any default value. We have to end this as salary from which table? Employee SS, right? So now if you observe, we are using multiple statements. Here it's a multiple condition. Here it's a single condition. Here is multiple conditions, right? So this is how conditional statements will allow us to apply, handling null values with the help of multiple conditions. Okay. Now if you see here, what it is returning, all remaining columns replaced with not null values, but here there is null values. Why? Because we consider only salary is null, then we are going to replace that with, you can see here, these values, but we are not mentioning any else part, right? So that's why it is returning remaining all are null. So we have to manage that also, right? Else we have to keep salary as it is. Okay, now if I execute this query, you can able to see all these values. Okay, so this is how we will be handling all null values. In real world project, they are going to mention any values. Okay, I hope you understood these three techniques, that is ISNULL, COALESCE and conditional statement, that is case statements. With the help of these three techniques that we are going to handle null values present in any table that stays in any database. Okay, I hope you understood. Thank you.